I'm not perfect, God, neither are you. Tell these salty motherfuckers to tell the truth. Tell politicians to give up the rooms. Tell silent voters to stand up to the booth.
God, it's me. Can you hear my plea? Feeling like I'm lost in this world, can't you see? Demons creeping in, trying to take control of me. But I'm just trying to find the light, trying to break free. I'm not perfect, God, neither are you. But why do you keep forgetting me? What did I do? Trying to have a convo, but you starting to preach. Feeling like I'm on a leash. Can't find no peace, find no peace. Living in hell, can't you hear my plea? I'm suffocating, can't you see? Why you let these false prophets roam free? While the well-run suffer, can't you see? I'm not perfect, God, neither are you. Why do you keep targeting me? What did I do? Trying to have a convo, but you starting to preach. Feel like I'm on a leash, can't find no peace.
Hardest battles, strongest soldiers, greatest burden, broadest shoulders. Pushing up just like these boulders. This conflict like it's water, so this mercy, take my chalice. Seeking grace through all this malice. All of these salty motherfuckers to give out.
Politics and sinners, they all the same.
Got me stuck in this endless game. But I won't give up,
won't play the role.
Gotta do what's best
for my soul.
I'm not perfect, God, neither are you. Tell these salty motherfuckers to tell the truth. Tell these politicians to give up the room. Tell silent voters to stand up to the booth. Living wild but truthfully free. God keep on watching over me. Take my pleas and keep the receipts.
Good morning, good morning, good morning, good morning, good morning, good morning. You already know how I start every morning, independent music. And this morning I have Rashad Lee winning, and I'll be right back right after this.
I'ma give these motherfuckers a piece of my mind right quick. K-Zoo, Rashad Lee. Let's go. Wait till I'm winning, they hate on me now, That's a hell of a foul. Niggas been sweating, go get them a towel. I earn my respect and they tearing me down. I look for my niggas, nowhere to be found. I'm standing on business with 10 on the ground. I said I'm a king, they ain't give me the crown. I know they gon' hatin', so this what I found. You niggas got guards and hoes who poppin' at all the shows, but what does it prove? You ain't got the heart to soul, the reason to go where I go or to do what I do. You talk about rags, my nigga, we sick of the cap. I promise I'm not in the mood, cause nigga, I'm different. I'm always gon' end at the finish. I've been having nothing to lose. You doing the most, you going outside. Damn. How am I different? You live in the past. I admit that I wanna do better at life. No, a nigga just wanna do better than last. You know why I do it? I'm doing this shit for my city, man. Fuck if a hater talking, know the people gon' feel me. I know they listen, this hella revealing. I peep the comments, niggas stay acting silly. I ran it up and I ain't talking to Millie. Paying homage, man, this shit for the real. I was down and ain't nobody love me. It was fuck the world, and man, that's still how I feel. Times I was hungry in search of a meal. Nights where I hope and I pray for a deal. Now niggas watching, they think it's unreal. Heavy hustle got me dead on the heels. I paid the cost and now we winning for real. My nigga, I'm winning, they hate on me now, That's a hell of a foul. Niggas been sweating, go get them a towel. I earn my respect and they tearing me down. I look for my niggas, nowhere to be found. I'm standing on business with 10 on the ground. I said I'm a king, they ain't give me the crown. I know they gon' hatin', so this what I found. You niggas got guards and hoes who poppin' at all the shows, but what does it prove? You ain't got the heart to soul, the reason to go where I go or to do what I do. You talk about rags, my nigga, we sick of the cap. I promise I'm not in the mood, cause nigga, I'm different. I'm always gon' end at the finish. I've been having nothing to lose. Out of body, I've been out of my soul. Can't let it go. Out of patience, I've been out of control. I'm setting the pace, I've been on the road. Niggas is fake, they breaking the code. My niggas say what? You know how I get it. Ask about me, niggas know that I been had the game in the skillet. Dropping pressure, been seeking my limit. A couple niggas probably ain't gonna feel it. I don't give a fuck. Some niggas dead on their luck. I'm stepping, ain't letting them up. I been had enough. Saying they love me, but really mean it. I don't know who to trust. Easy money and I do it legit. Haters watching, hope a nigga would slip. Try to copy, niggas been on my dick. Thinking back to when a nigga want shit. This one for the zoo, my city for the ship. My nigga, let's get winning and hate on me now, That's a hell of a file. Niggas been sweating, go get them a towel. I earn my respect and they tearing me down. I look for my niggas, nowhere to be found. I'm standing on business with 10 on the ground. I said I'm a king, they ain't give me the crown. I know they gon' hate, and so this what I found. You niggas got cars and hoes who popping at all the shows, but what does it prove? You ain't got the heart to soul, the reason to go where I go or to do what I do. You talk about rags, my nigga, we sick of the cap. I promise I'm not in the mood, cause nigga, I'm different. I'm always gon' end at the finish. I've been having nothing to lose.
With winning. The first thing that I want to do this morning is a conversation between Raguse and Dana Nelson. Because there's more to this story, and I'm gonna say it like this. Dana Nelson is lying. You do an interview with the person and they show no documentation, none. If you look in the lawsuit, there was lots, but she never showed anything to prove what she was saying was true. Nothing. She never showed no kind of paperwork to say, and this is, I get what Lou is trying to do, but we need to go further into the story. And what I'm saying is, if you even look at the emails that the workers at DHS, there was over 480 workers, or I think it was like 420 or something, whatever. She showed no paperwork. They were putting at least emails out there. That's what I don't understand is like, how do we actually believe these people without no documentation, no paperwork, nothing? So how do you believe that? And of course, it would be a white woman. Of course, it would be a white woman. You're talking about money that was supposed to hit North Minneapolis. And not Marquise didn't talk, not Brian Herron, but a white woman. That's the crazy part, because they want you, the viewers, to see that. They didn't want you to see black men up here who have done wrong in the communities because they couldn't explain a whole bunch of shit. And I'm going to say it like this. Dana really didn't explain anything. Yeah, she talked. Everybody can talk a good game. But where is your paperwork? I see the whole stack over there. Like, come on. Like, why didn't you put any of that on the air? So that's what I'm going to say it like this. I know people that were in the Wellness Collaborative and got fucked over. Got fucked over by not only just Marquise, but Brian Herron. I've done events at Zion Baptist Church. So it's really fucking crazy to me of like, when will we finally be able to just sit down and talk about the truth? Not narratives, but the truth. So let me get into this Lou Raguse and Dana Nelson interview.
What makes you want to speak publicly right now?
I was frustrated because I feel like the story and what's being communicated out is not accurate.
Mm-hmm. And what exactly is not accurate?
That the church didn't do any work, for one, and for two, the pieces regarding me leaving to go work for the church is not accurate either. And it just frustrates me that a community that does amazing work is being targeted unfairly, when I think that in all actuality, the state is shifting blame when they really need to be focused on their own house, essentially.
DHS says that Zion committed grant fraud. Is that true?
No, absolutely not. Absolutely not. They, and I would say they did more work than they were even paid for. They were responding to crisis around the clock. During the time that the funding was given to them, I don't know if you remember, and sort of what sparked the initial conversations around the funding, there were 5 children that were killed in North Minneapolis, really close together. Anaya Allen it was during that time. And that's what sparked the conversation to try to find funding for this community.
What exactly is a wellness collaborative?
So the church was the contract holder for the funding, and the collaborative was 17 organizations that came together in the North Minneapolis area to form this collaborative. Community violence intervention organizations, mental health organizations, substance use disorder organizations that all came together to serve the North Minneapolis community specifically.
Did Zion Church and the Wellness Collaborative go to DHS and ask for this grant?
They did not. DHS went to them and said, hey, you're doing phenomenal work. Let's make it bigger. Let's expand it. We want you to go here. We want you to take this here. We want you to take it there. And again, it was never one person. It was a team. It was federal relations. It was community engagement. It was mental health. It was substance use. It was accounting. It was literally a team of at least 9 people from DHS, including leadership at DHS, that sat with Marquise, Pastor Heron, others from the collaborative in a meeting, in multiple meetings, and said, we're so glad you're trusting us. We want to continue to build this relationship. Let's do it.
Pastor Heron was convicted of a financial crime about 25 years ago, and then was given this grant of taxpayer money. Is there a problem with that?
Pastor Heron paid for his crime 25 years ago, and he is a well-respected man in his community. He serves tirelessly to his community. To scrutinize Pastor Heron now isn't fair because he does amazing work, and he gives, like I said, tirelessly to his community, and he's so well-respected. As I said earlier, when really the problem isn't the community and it's not the church, it's that DHS made mistakes in how they managed and did things, and instead of doing what they need to do systemically, they're pointing the fingers outward, and that's not fair and it's not right.
In your role as the grant manager during this time, did you know for a fact that Zion was doing the work that they're being paid through the grant to do?
100%, yeah. Absolutely.
And you saw it with your own eyes?
Yes, and they met regularly. We held meetings monthly with multiple staff from DHS where we met to discuss what they were working on. We were invited to events. There were multiple DHS staff present at events. They gave reports regularly showing that they were doing the work. Understand how you can say they didn't do work when there were DHS staff present at events that they held. So it's just mind-blowing to me that
What's crazy to me is she goes back all the way until Anaya, Trinity, and LaDavion, right? I'm beyond. I've never seen this lady, never met her. She never was on 36th and Penn. She never came to the events that we did over there in 2 years. So it's really mind-blowing to hear her say these things. And I've never seen her at no events. I've never seen her at a vigil. Never seen her at anything that we were doing, marches, rallies, cookouts. Never seen her. And really Marquise and them, even Brian Heron, they only really came one time. One time when we did something over north, and that was when BLM and Nikema and the motherfuckers tried to take shit over. That's the only time we ever seen these people. Yes, we had to sign in they used to do like a sign-in sheet or whatever. We never knew motherfuckers was getting paid. We never knew that people were getting putting down statistics, stats, and we never knew nothing about that. We just wanted change in our community. But it's mind-blowing to see all this money that came out that people were supposed to be like violence interrupters or, do this, do that. And none of that shit really changed in North Minneapolis.
and it still hasn't changed. I mean, North Minneapolis has gotten worse. It hasn't gotten better. It's gotten worse. And it really trips me out to see that you do this interview and you don't show any documentation. That's like the really messed up part for me is like, how do you not show documentation? Nothing. You were just going by your words. And to say that Brian Heron, stop lying. Yeah, he's respected, but when it comes to people that are out in the streets, and he's not respected by them people because we already know his character. The same thing goes for Spike Moss, Bobby Champion. Only dick goblin ass niggas is on these people's dicks. Marquise, Brian Heron, Jerry McAfee. Come on, man. Because when it really came down to it, to the people that were over on 36th and Penn, we never saw none of these fucking people. Nobody. Nobody. And all this money was going around, but never nothing came back into the community.
It's
Nothing
been
came
that
back.
way for a long time. If you look
Right.
at it, like in the 90s and the 80s is when it really started, when they started doing the gang task force stuff or like the harm reduction stuff. That actually started in like the 80s, man. And they directed money to specific organizations rather than having be an open bid process and it go to the whoever has the best program or the you know what I mean, the best outcomes.
Right.
And so when you direct money to specific problems, they're almost incentivized to make more of that problem, to have more clients or services provided, and then they get more money. But in order to do that, they have to have more clients, whatever it may be. And you can have it be on the DHS side with some of the we've seen with the autism
Yeah.
diagnoses and stuff like that. When you incentivize that with these programs, that's what we see, and that's a problem. And we all know that like Brian Heron is really tied in with Bobby Joe Champion. Same
Right.
thing with, a lot of these organizations that end up getting direct funding. He also has had a lot of partnerships with different Muslim coalitions and stuff like that and groups and funded money to them, promising it to the North Side community. At least this one did go to North Side, but it seems like there was fraud there. Doesn't surprise me, but um, when you have it written into the legislation though, where it has to be these culturally appropriate, and you go down the list where almost specify who gets to get it, then
Right.
you're directing it to these organizations whether or not they have the proper setup, and there's no like education and stuff like that. You're just handing money to people that just started up a nonprofit. There's no like, how do you even comply what you're supposed to do? And the
Right.
way it's written is there's like a lack of outcomes, especially for the peer recovery stuff. There's no outcomes required.
That's the really crazy part to me is because they talk about all this money, right? But they made me and Marcus jump through hoops. It was like we had a little team. We had all that. I won't say we had accounting or like any of that like shit or whatever, but we literally had a team of people. And one of the people on our team, that's what one of their jobs was supposed to be. That was Todd. So he was in those meetings with Bobby Joe Champion and all this whole time was that we were getting played. You know what I'm saying? It's like the people that are actually doing the work weren't getting anything, and yet the people that were just uh with titles, pastors, and it's like, damn, how are we actually gonna get change in the community if the people who are actually out here doing it aren't getting a dime? Aren't getting a dime, and it's the people that are sitting behind desks. It's the people that are with titles and aren't doing anything, but yet they're getting the money. And that's what's really, really crazy to me is because um, uh, it's like, what do we really care about? Because I don't think it was ever change and reform. It was always about changing their bank accounts, changing their circumstances, making them black excellence. And really, they're really not. The same thing with Eliza Darris. You know what I'm saying? Like all these people talk about they're for the community, but y'all get paid. This dude gets paid over a quarter. Uh, uh I won't even say that's like 200 and over $250,000 at the Minnesota Freedom Fund, and it's like You're not changing anybody's life that's really out in the streets. You're trying to change your life. And I get it. You had a fucked up case. They try to throw you away and lock you up and throw away the key. I get it. But there's a lot of black men that have that same fucking story that he has, and he doesn't help them. He helps out the people that are scammers.
I've seen that a lot. It seems like that people, even if they start off with good intentions, once they start seeing that money and power, they drift towards it, man,
Right.
and that's what they end up caring about. And I've seen it with people in the military. I've seen it with, you know what I mean. But it seems like that's what I've seen looking into the stuff, especially over north side. And you have to realize that, like, the mosque that um, Ellison attends was started by the Nation of Islam in the '60s up here, and it was the guy who died that was big into Nation of Islam is his son, the El Amin guy, uh, that uh, is now running it, and he's more about the interfaith and stuff like that. But even says that they push the social justice and stuff like that for other people, but they don't believe it for themselves.
Right.
So they separate their religion and their politics, but they're really into that for the politics of it. And he took over right around '96, which was right after the Hoff stuff and whatever else. And it seems like that's when Ellison started transitioning from the Nation of Islam. And I have nothing against people's religion, but just realize that the Nation of Islam in the '60s was used. It came out of Chicago in that big time, and it was used along with the gangs. And in Milwaukee, they set it up literally where you'd go to confession basically, and you'd go plan stuff, and then you give money to their community organization or whatever it is, and that's how they laundered the money. And then they moved that to Minnesota as well. So that was what it was set up for. And the FBI had infiltrated it and was helping them do it because they like extremism, just like the Southern Poverty Law Center likes
Right.
to, you know what I mean? Because you can't have gang task force without gangs.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. You can't have civil asset forfeiture, which they got big into, without the RICO and the gang stuff. You know what I mean?
Right.
So that's sort of what happened, you know. And you can look at the FBI's own files on the Nation of Islam there in Milwaukee and see exactly how they were running it and that. But they were funded by the Rockefeller and Ford foundations. A lot of the gangs that ended up coming up here, and that's exactly who's funding the left now. So they switched from funding the gangs to funding these social organizations and that, you know, to create up their change. And you know, if you're really like billionaires that are really big into population control and controlling people, then thumbs up. But if you don't like billionaires doing that, then thumbs down. You know what I mean?
Right.
But
Right.
that's the reason why you don't see anything actually change, is because the policies that they push isn't to actually fix the issue. It's to create up whatever else that they want. And we can talk about the issues. There are issues in Hennepin County with it being corrupt, and there with the politicians, the DA, that you go down the list. So Mary's just using it in a different way. She may or may not be corrupt, you know what I mean? But the office has been corrupt for so long
For years, right.
that whoever gets in will probably use it for their own good.
And that's the thing of it is that, like, Minnesota, and I'm just talking about Minnesota as a whole, has never fixed any of the actually really problems that we've had throughout the years, throughout the decades. I know reading the program integrity thing that he did, I think it was like 11 pages long or whatever, but it was like 9 pillars. And one of the things that was in that, one of the pillars is like, we seem to have like fraud and waste embedded into our social justice programs. And it's like people don't actually want to believe that. And it's only one set of, I'll say this, one set of people, right? Ideology. They have that DSA or like that left side ideology, right? Because they don't like, all I can see is when Bobby gets on and does his interviews is, well, I can guarantee there's no fraud in here. Nigga, you're lying. You know what I'm saying? It's like, we already know. I don't blame Bobby. I don't blame Vitar. They're just cogs in the system. That's all it is. They're just a pawn. They're just somebody to make it. The same thing with Pearl. I watched that yesterday about Todrick Barnett when they had this at the Minneapolis City Council. It was about an hour long or whatever, but it was really informative because you really did see uh like it wasn't about community, it was about their individual, thoughts. And uh that to me like really showed something, is because people really need to start watching the city councils, the school boards, county commissioners, even our state legislators, because during those committee hearings or like in the city council or the school boards, there's always things that are in there that they say the quiet parts out loud. And that's where like the same, like I got out this week, like with Pine Island, they have a data center they want to bring in there. And that's like the first time that I've ever seen really. I'm sure it's happened way before, but this is the first time that I've ever seen it. Is there was NDAs with trying to put a data center in Pine Island. I'm like, why would you hide? Why would you have to hide what you're doing? And if it's going to bring prosperity to the community, I would think you would want all like to be transparent. Um,
NDAs are used way too often, actually, especially in the corporate world. Because, like, if Amazon builds a warehouse in your city, then they may have certain requirements. Like in Mankato, the reason why they can't have a Costco is because they have a Walmart warehouse there,
yeah,
and there's a Walmart and a Sam's Club there, and they promise them in some sort of writing within an X amount of area in Blue Earth County they can't have a Costco.
mhm,
And so, like, stuff like that does get put into writing, and a lot of times it's in an NDA to get tax increment financing, whatever their deals are
right.
with these companies. So that's not an unknown. It is a problem. I agree,
Right,
but it's
right. No, I've got that really from like Drew Roach and looking at his page, and uh that's why like I'm really behind like Philip Parrish, because I don't see any other current legislator or even a former lawmaker or trying to even become one talk about the years of issues we've had, because the only way we're going to fix Minnesota is not to just go at this whatever you want to call Somali fraud, or we have to go what caused all this fraud, and we have to close that uh turn off that pipe, you know what I'm saying, or turn off that
well, go look at these people's other statements other times. Bobby Joe, many times on KMOJ, what has he said? His favorite saying about meeting with legislators or whatever else: if you're not at the table, you're on the menu.
right,
Okay, that's their philosophy. And these people get told by their elected officials or county officials or whatever else, oh, hey, we just got extra money for you. And that's how they get votes. Because, like, uh, Zion Baptist Church was really big with him on pushing the felon voting, which, hey, I don't
right,
I don't mind if you're off paper, cool. You know what I mean? Um, but because they've served their time. You know what I mean? So I do believe that, yeah, they should be able to vote. However, like, they're the ones that pushed it real big for him, guaranteeing him votes afterwards, type of thing. And there was a lot of money for the outreach and whatever else. And
right,
you just get into these things where it's just that they're um pushing basically direct appropriations for votes. You know what I mean? And they do
right,
it really shyly sometimes, where they'll, like, again, give a grant for, like, a culturally specific or sensitive training for agriculture for disadvantaged whatever else, and you get down there and there's like 3 nonprofits that do that, and they all get the money. And they just so happen to be parts of, the lobbyists for the DFL or for, you know what I mean. And you see the same thing with, like, the MMPOA, or, you know what I mean. There was some veterans lodge that GOP was trying to give some direct appropriations to. No, I'm against direct appropriations to your buddies, period.
right,
Okay. With
right,
that's called money laundering for votes. We shouldn't be laundering taxpayers' money for votes. You know what I mean? And
right,
it's the same thing with the health side of it. With, like, the peer recovery specialist, what they did is they put two organizations in charge of licensing that are nonprofits. They license themselves. Guess who they also inspect? Themselves. And they determine the outcomes themselves.
Right.
You wouldn't do that with food safety. You wouldn't let meat plants inspect themselves and determine whether or not they're in compliance with themselves. And you know what I mean? Like, then why are
Well,
you
and the
doing it
thing that
for?
trips me out is like this isn't just like uh philanthropy money. This is actually taxpayer money. So why don't they take the fraud? I feel like they should be taking the fraud a little bit more serious. Uh this isn't like, Mayo Clinic and they're wasting, or there's so much I'm sure there is. There's probably whatever, but uh that's not money that really I should care about, because to me that's not my cash. That's not my money. I haven't put nothing into it. But now when you talk about all this fraud, that's our money. That's money being took that could have actually went to help homeless people or to help people with mental health problems, uh, people who can't feed themselves, people who can't house themselves. And instead, we just gave that money to people who were out here because they had so much paperwork. But even though that paperwork was false, it was doctored up, or it was edited, or it was even turned in late. Uh, and that's the crazy thing for me is like, how can we sit here and not talk about the things that were in that OLA report, especially about Zion Baptist Church, on how they were being fraudulent with their paperwork, how it was dated late. You know what I'm saying? Of like, how do not people not see that shit? Like, how can not people not get upset, or even, because to me, when I seen that, I read the lawsuit from DHS about Zion Baptist, and the first thing I thought about was like, damn, Brian Heron hasn't changed one bit. Everybody says that he's changed. His actions show that he hasn't. And it's the same thing with like Mike Lindell. It's like, and I know I'm not trying to talk about like, but to me, it's similar, because Brian did scams when he was on the I won't say scams, but took a bribe and extortion, all that shit when he was on the Minneapolis City Council. But then I look at Mike Lindell, and he was a crackhead and he did all this shit. But to me, I still see the behaviors of a person that uses crack, that uses cocaine. And because a lot of these white people, and I don't mean no disrespect, because they've never been around that. They're not gonna be able to notice that. And it's the same thing that I say about Royce. Royce is not from the hood. So he's not gonna see crack, he's not gonna notice crackhead behavior. And that's the one thing that I really, really I do not understand. And if Republicans really wanted to win Minnesota, they would go inside of Minneapolis and have these conversations, because they would be really shocked of how many people are not or would not vote for Elisa DeMuth or Kristen Robbins or Mike Lindell. And it's none of the reasons that we see it talked about on Twitter or talked about on Facebook, because these are the types of people that don't come out here and talk.
Many of the people know that they've been screwed over and that that money's gone to the Somalis instead. Okay,
Right.
that's not unknown, and they claim to be black on a lot of the census and what other things until it's time to be Somali, and then they claim to be Somali.
Well,
And so that's where the stats get real weird, even for like the health disparities that they started in the early 2000s. Because like if you're only including them for certain diseases and not for others, then you're actually showing worse outcomes, possibly, or better outcomes, right? From the blacks that were already here, whether it be heart disease or whatever else. If we're trying to target those things specifically, then we do have to look at that. And that became another money laundering grift where Isaiah got its start. You know what I mean?
right.
Um, and then they targeted, you know what I mean, the money for that stuff. But then all they've done, like since 2000, they've added over 100,000, well over 100, probably more than like 200,000 people. Because 2022 to 2024, there was 80,000 immigrants that they brought into Minnesota between
Right.
those 2 years. So I mean, it has to be well over 100,000. Then you just can't keep on dropping people here and then trying to get data points and have that be accurate. You know what
Right.
I mean? Like
Right.
if you're doing chemistry and you have a graduated cylinder and you're mixing chemicals. You can't just keep on adding chemicals and expecting it to be there. Right? You know what I mean? It's not going to come out okay. And that's where a lot of the money laundering ended up, is straight through those programs and then it was incentivized again. You have
Right.
people literally training these people. Hey, you can get free money here, get free money there. And if you have the AG and whoever saying, oh, no, you can go get it, just go do it. You know what I mean? And you know that they're going to get up there and even have the U.S. attorney, Andrew Luger, get up there and say, yeah, we have terrorists, but they're not all bad people. And you know what I
Right.
mean? And cover up the fraud stuff, saying it's racist and stuff until it really has to be dealt with. And that's basically what happened. The defeating our future stuff started way earlier, and you can go look at the documents from 2018 and 19. Some of these places changed, like the Mako Child Care Center you saw in Nick Shirley video and whatever else. Uh, and one of the things that they said that he wasn't accurate. And yes, many child care center got 1.6 million or whatever. Guess where Mako Child Care Center is? The mini child care center. They haven't even changed the sign. It still says Mako, and they have the same phone number when they registered with the state. Same address, same phone number, and same people that run
Right.
it.
We're gonna get into that later, because that
Right.
was something that we had pointed out a very long time ago. And I know it wasn't like directly with the Somalis, but it's just how the system is broken, and there's not really any guardrails on how to prevent fraud, to be honest. Let me
Well, the
get into this.
nonprofits that train them, they get a cut. So they get a
Right.
cut for providing deed services for entrepreneurs to help these people get started. So you have these nonprofits that get a 10 to 15% cut of all these grants that flow through to provide these services. So these nonprofits are making bank off their programs and services.
Right.
They're making these allegations and saying that no work was done when there were DHS staff present. Marquise was invited to speak on panels that DHS staff were a part of. They were very much front-facing in the community. They were asked at one point, and this was as I was leaving DHS, and for the second part of their contract, they were asked to expand their work at one point. So if they weren't doing work, why were they asked to then expand it into St. Paul and into South Minneapolis? And why were they asked to expand and train statewide? So it doesn't make sense. So if there was question about whether or not they were working and whether or not they were executing the terms of their contract, why then would you offer them additional money to expand the work that they were doing? Mm-hmm. It just doesn't make any sense.
The legislative auditor and DHS said that you quit and became a consultant for Zion, therefore getting paid with the taxpayer grant money that you used to manage. Is that accurate? Why did you leave DHS?
I left DHS primarily because of all of the work related, all of the things around Kairos and Refocus Recovery. And I was offered an opportunity to take the position I'm in now.
And more specifically, what about that stuff that was going on with the fraud within recovery programs? That when you were inside DHS, what specifically made you want to leave at that time?
I was aware that Kairos/Refocus Recovery was not eligible as a billable vendor to bill Medicaid for peer support services. I at one point reported to provider enrollment that they were not an eligible vendor, and worked with them to essentially flip the switch to cut their billing off. And I was immediately scolded, if you will, and was told, no, you can't do that. It was over the 4th of July. Remember that very distinctly, and was told, no, you can't do that. Turn it back on. What are you doing? And at that point was sort of removed from that entire conversation. And at that point I was just like, you know what? This feels gross. This is yucky. I realized that money has power, and it didn't align with me anymore. Mm-hmm. And at that point, I I realized that that wasn't a place I wanted to be. It was essentially sort of sucking the life out of me being there. So I started looking and realizing that it wasn't where I wanted to be, and this opportunity came here in the position that I'm in now. Withdrawal management was another one of my areas while I was at DHS, so I took the opportunity to come here.
Now that there's been so much reporting on that recovery issue, what do we know now to be
that
true?
They committed millions of dollars of fraud,
and you tried to stop it?
Absolutely. And that's another reason why all of this is so frustrating to me.
It's frustrating to me because if she was trying to stop it, why were you just going to DHS and not going to the taxpayers? Because you weren't being vocal about it like with Carrie Levin, because I see Freddie Bernstein, who still works in DHS and is a whistleblower. And she's trying to blow that whistle loud as a motherfucker. But people aren't hearing it. So why weren't this is my whole thing about it, right? Because that account on Twitter of like DHS employees is calling out Dana Nelson, calling her out, telling her, if any of this shit that you're saying is true, prove it. Prove it. And she ain't responding to that shit. And it drives me insane that we do, and this is the thing about media. I love Blue Raguse. I love watching this. I love reading. I love everything. I've even asked Ashley if I wanted to go buy his newest book. I forget what the name of it is, and it's like, really, when it comes down to it, they don't like asking the tough questions because maybe they're worried about getting sued or they're worried about this or that. I feel like if you're worried about any of that, because the paperwork is all there. It's all, this is the one thing that I don't understand, right? Is that DHS put out their facts about what they were doing with Zion 100%. She's just putting out words. That's why, so when Discovery comes out in this, because I hope it does, I hope Zion doesn't want to pay back the 2.4 and they actually go to court. So Discovery will be very, very eye-opening, I think, for a lot of people, because not only will it show that Dana Nelson is lying, but that Carrie Levin actually went with it and did an interview and didn't ask for any kind of proof, didn't ask for any kind of documentation. You have one lady's word, who actually benefits from these lies that she's telling. She doesn't benefit from telling the truth. So if she benefited from telling the truth, you would think that she would have did that shit when she was inside of DHS. But she was more worried about the people that paid her. You don't bite the hand that feeds you. So, and I've always stated that. I've always stated that people do not bite the hand that feeds them.
You tried to stop the fraud and your managers within DHS didn't allow you to do so.
And here I am. And I think that that's what's so frustrating to me with all of this now is I'm sitting here speaking to you with my name getting thrown into a mess that it shouldn't even be thrown into, when I've always carried myself in an ethical manner. Yet here I am speaking with you about something. And it's very frustrating and disheartening. So I left DHS, took this opportunity in a position that I absolutely love, with amazing people. After I had been established here for several months, Marquise reached out to me and asked me if I had the capacity to provide some assistance to them through consulting. I asked him if we could speak to my old supervisor at DHS, just to make sure there wasn't any conflict. So we did. He and I both met with her and said, is there any perceived conflict with me doing this? She said, no, lots of people leave DHS and do consulting work all of the time. You're no longer an employee here. It's a non-issue. So after we met with her, I did maybe 10 hours every couple weeks. invoiced them and got paid, I think, monthly from them. Nominal. I mean, very minimal from them. I have a full-time job, so it wasn't like it was any income I depended on.
Right. And would 17,000 sound about right?
Over the course of 2 years, I don't know, maybe.
Yeah.
It wasn't anything substantial that I can say, yep, that was the amount.
Even the way that it's characterized, though, in that search warrant that I showed you, is that accurate, that there was no invoices showing that you did work for them?
There was absolutely invoice, because I had to, it was all, like I was saying to you, it was all done through an app. So they had everything set up because they had an accounting firm that they paid. So everything was done through an accounting firm and an app. So in order for me to get any sort of payment through them, there was an invoice created through an app. The app was, the invoice was sent through the app, and then the payment came through the app. So it was all tracked through an app. Nothing was done until after I left DHS. There was no payments received. There was nothing done until after my time with DHS.
So you didn't leave DHS to go work for the church?
No. Absolutely not.
Were you the only former grant manager to provide consulting for a grantee after they leave DHS?
No, it happens all the time. And again, I had a meeting with my former supervisor at DHS, Marquise, and I said, is there any perceived conflict with me doing this? Because I wanted to make sure that I wanted to help them, because the work that they were doing is important, and they had concerns of even entering into any sort of agreement with DHS. They, because of the systemic racism, because of the historical trauma, they didn't want to take money from DHS. So when Marquise reached out to me, he said, Dana, we just want to make sure we're doing everything right. And I said, okay, let's make sure it's okay for me to do this. So we had that meeting. And even after we had that initial meeting, I participated in several meetings after that. And there was never any question or concern. Dana, you know what? I circled back. You probably shouldn't be doing this. Never was there any conversation that said otherwise. Dana, you know what? We talked about it. Probably not a good idea for you to do this. There is a conflict. Never was there a conversation that stated that, ever.
So was there ever a time that you thought that anyone would think that there was anything wrong with it prior to that legislative auditor report? That's the first you heard of it?
Yes. And in the auditor meeting that they had with the state auditors, I literally sat next to Glenn, who I've done audits with. Hey, Dana, good to see you. Well, how are you? Great, how are you? It's great to see you too. Never any question or concern. And again, if there was any concern that I was doing anything wrong, why would I be there? Why would there be any sort of question or like any sort of like I wouldn't be sitting there if I thought I was doing something wrong.
Yeah.
And that's the part where I'm like, instead of owning as an agency, hey, we made multiple mistakes. Hey, we shouldn't have done this or done that. Now you're trying to point fingers elsewhere and throw other people under the bus when it really needs to be, hey, we did a lot of things that we probably should correct. Instead, they're pointing the fingers outward. And it makes me sick to my stomach, to be honest.
Yeah.
And it's not fair, and it's not right, and it's not okay.
Okay. Well, thank you.
It's crazy because to me, this lady lied. She never showed any proof to what she was saying. And in the lawsuit, when you look at it, all you see is that they put actually documentation in that shit. She just is giving her word. So it's wild to me that, I don't get it. I really don't get it. And this is something that has been talked about, not just in 2025, but in 2024, 2023, 2022. Like, this isn't new. And I don't know why. I don't really have the slightest idea of why lawmakers are acting shocked or surprised, because a lot of this was already brought to them. They sat there and twiddled with their thumbs, sat on their hands and didn't do shit. And it's like I see this legislation coming out and I see bipartisan support, but I don't see any bipartisan support for to getting rid of the fraud because people are okay without giving out more money, but it seems like nobody actually just wants to literally just stop the fraud. And that's why I'm really behind a Philip Parrish. Um, and it to me, I know he calls himself a Republican. I really had a hard time with myself lately over that. But at the end of the day, I can't. I'm not gonna sit here. We only have so many political parties in America and in Minnesota. And it's not easy. Um, I'm not about to be like a bandwagoner. I'm not about to be uh jumping on different sides or any of that shit. So um sometimes you just gotta eat your humility and your pride and put that aside to be able to get to the bigger vision. And that's literally like what I'm doing. So uh I don't agree with a lot of Republicans uh when it comes to a lot of shit. But I definitely don't have anything in common when it comes to my values or my morals with people on the left. So, and I think that's where a lot of Minnesotans really sit is they can't vote for a Democrat, but then they don't want to vote for Republicans either. And I really, really do get it because that's where I sit sometimes. And I'm sure it's not just me, there's other people out here. But what choice other do we have? You know what I'm saying? I'm like, I'm not telling people to just fuck it and just join their table. I'm saying to come start shifting to bring people to your table, your ideas, your plans. And that's what I really like about Phil. He's not just uh like it's his ideas, it's all our ideas. So, and that's really weird for me saying that shit, but it's the truth. You know what I'm saying? It's like my whole uh couple of first years in 2020 and 2021, I was so blind that a lot of these people I call friends today, back then I called them racist, and that's not what they are.
And some people have developed themselves too. I mean, like
Right,
running for office isn't always easy, especially when the party's backstabbing you and whatever else, you
right,
know. But I support Phil because like he's the only one willing to listen about the fraud. You know how long me and you've been talking about it and that. You know
right.
what I mean? I just don't have time to catch up any other candidates on what I'm doing. You know what I mean? Yeah, I'm
See,
actually
I can't. I'll be honest. I've gone and looked at or even heard other legislators or people that are running for governor or even running to become a new lawmaker. I don't hear them really talking about the things that Phil talks about. And that's what has drawn me closer because like when I started to do my research or like my homework or whatever we want to call it, I was told you have to go back to the beginning to even get anywhere close to the end. Uh, so that's what I saw. I saw with the how the cartel came to Minnesota and helped build a airplane. I mean, not an airplane, airport. You know what I'm saying? So that just shows that uh, the right thing isn't always the best thing to do. It depends how much cash they have. Uh, and that's been going, I mean, go back to prohibition with alcohol. You know what I'm saying? It's always been like that with the mafia, with uh, gangs, with I'll even go religion nowadays.
definitely just when I talk to some of the other candidates, like in Minnesota Speaks or whatever, they want to deny that some of the things exist that exist. And so, like, I'm not going to argue with you if you're saying that you don't think the CIA has an office in Minnesota when we have documents from the 80s showing them switching their office from one of the bank buildings downtown to Fort Snelling, and then articles about where their office is at Fort Snelling.
Right.
Um, so then, yeah, if you know what I mean. So just things like that. Like I don't have time. to convince people these things are real, rather than just showing them the information, having them be able to understand it, and if they need to incorporate it in what they're doing. You know
Right.
what I mean?
Right.
I don't have hours and hours to sit here and spoon feed people reality.
You know
And
what? I'll give you one example that people have a hard time believing the truth because not a lot of people, not I'll even say with BLM, any of that, right? Not a lot of people knew, and I had to learn this from Robert, that the building at the end of the block by Brooklyn Center Police Department was the FBI Fusion Center. And I didn't know that. I don't think a lot of people even knew uh, what went on there. And it really shocked me of being that close to the FBI and all that. And people weren't even like realizing or even identifying like, hey, there's the FBI place. There's, there's a fusion center in there. That was actually people that were nowhere near the front lines. But
and the fusion center stuff gets interesting because that was based on Clinton's EO. I think it was 83 or 63.
mhm.
And which was some continuity of government thing. Bob Allen, the old deputy chief of police, was supposed to present it the morning of 9/11, and 9/11 happened. So then they went from it just being a draft, like tabletop exercise type plan to, oh no, we're actually doing the fusion centers. And it started off in conjunction with Target and a couple other things, and then the downtown improvement district. So you have a fusion center down there, and then you have the main fusion center. The main fusion center also has BCA and a couple other people there as well. And it seemed they monitor the flock stuff, a whole bunch of online stuff. Basically, it's a dragnet for data, and most of it's data you're putting out in the public anyway. Or if you are out in public, you have no expectation of privacy. You know what I mean? If as far as walking down the street or whatever, because people can record you, but they've been bragging about that. Remember 2018, whenever the Super Bowl came to town, there was stuff all over the news about the Fusion Center. You know what I mean? And then in 2020, they used it, and now they have this cool little thing called Remus and Romulus, which is an AI that the U of M has that is going to be doing AI governance. But what it's looking for is anomalies. So it's not looking for everybody's data. It's looking for the people that are going to cause problems. And they had already launched this prior to the ICE kickoff. So now this AI has been trained by these anti-ICE people on how to spot uprisings and stop them through their AI governance for the future AI governance of Minnesota.
And I can say this is that Minnesotans and I'll even say Americans, they're not, a lot of people are so clueless about AI and what its capabilities are actually capable of. And there is a lot of things that I think people don't actually believe because they've never seen it. Or they shouldn't even say I've never seen it. They haven't seen it with their own two eyes. They maybe seen it on TV. And that's when they start really seeing the AI come out, they're gonna be wild. There's people are gonna be shocked. But
Same
I
with the
want
AI prisons. The AI prisons that they're talking about with the Halo device or whatever that will either rewire your brain and put you in a virtual prison or whatever. Yeah, they're talking about that stuff.
and people just don't get it. They just think we need that kind of police center. We need, okay, keep on thinking that that's what we need. They showed Faye Bernstein on KSTP Channel 5 ABC. I think that's what it's called. And I found it kind of interesting because around the same time that Lou Raguse interviewed Dana, Faye Bernstein and Faye Bernstein has came out since 2019 and been very vocal. So what Dana says is completely opposite of what Faye Bernstein has said. So here goes Faye Bernstein's interview.
Tonight, you're going to hear from a woman who's worked 2 decades inside Minnesota's Department of Human Services. The state agency is facing an unprecedented amount of fraud in its programs. In a rare conversation A whistleblower is talking about the red flags she raised with investigative reporter Kirsten Swanson.
Yeah, and Lindsay, we say rare because it is very unusual to have a current state employee speak out publicly. But Faye Bernstein told me her critiques of the department's oversight of millions of dollars in funding are more important now than when she first raised them 7 years ago.
The headlines and hearings.
The public is fed up.
Reports and reforms.
A mindset that has to change.
It all leaves Faye Bernstein with one lingering thought.
I would love to just say, I told you so.
Bernstein, a longtime DHS employee, first identified issues with the agency's oversight of funding back in 2019 when she worked as a contract specialist.
And that's the first time that I saw what I said at that time was just some really risky practices. It was the kind of practices that we wouldn't want to be doing because it would allow fraud in.
What other kind of alarm bells were going off as you're seeing these things in the contracts that are coming through your desks?
What really struck me was the attitude of leadership when I would bring it up. There always seemed to be a reason why it was better to just look the other way, get it out, get it out, get it out.
Bernstein said after speaking to multiple people up the chain of command, she sent this email chronicling her concerns and frustrations to 133 fellow employees.
And what happened after that?
I was locked out of the office real fast, real fast.
The department launched an investigation and ultimately disciplined Bernstein.
I was reprimanded for not doing work, which was correct. Completely agree. I was not going to do these contracts that shouldn't be done.
She stayed at DHS but didn't stay silent. Most notably, she warned lawmakers of the issues she found.
What I was pointing out originally was quite routine, and it was simply my job.
Those concerns, first raised 7 years ago, are now echoing once again through the halls of state government.
I do not see how we can come through this without a massive change at the Department of Human Services in our leadership.
This is not philanthropic money. This is taxpayer dollar. We have to count for every penny. There just is not that basic understanding.
What is it that has allowed this to persist for so long?
It is unbelievably entrenched. There's no question.
Bernstein's assessment is in line with what Program Integrity Director Tim O'Malley found. His report, published in February, said Minnesota's fraud vulnerabilities have existed for decades. A too-trusting mindset and a system biased toward facilitating payments rather than safeguarding funds contributed to creating opportunities for exploitation.
I don't see how we can escape it unless there is mass firings up above.
Does that concern you at all, being so publicly visible and out front about these issues?
It does. It does concern me, but I'm going to keep talking about it because if you're going to blow the whistle, you might as well blow it really, really loud.
DHS Commissioner Shreen Gandhi addressed the treatment of whistleblowers during a recent interview with our Kevin Doran.
We have talked to DHS workers and providers who said they have complained about fraud or red flags, and they felt they're being ignored. What are you doing to protect whistleblowers?
I get very upset when I hear that people feel they are being ignored. That is not okay. I know people feel that way, and I know some people feel they've been retaliated against. And I would say that if you don't feel comfortable coming to us, please report to the Bureau of Criminal Apprehension, report to the OLA. What's most important is that we get the information so we can act on it, because we don't want this continuing to happen.
The department also says they're seeing a steady rise in the number of employees reporting information to the department. In 2024, DHS says it received only 8 reports from staff. Lindsay, in 2025, that number jumped up to 42. That's what the Commissioner Gandhi told Kevin during that interview we aired on Monday.
Well, that was a powerful firsthand account.
Yeah.
I think you're muted, man.
Yep, I am. What people don't understand though is that a lot of this is interesting and it goes back years. I have a tweet. They put their letter out here that they sent in 2022, Minnesota staff fraud reporting. We gave them an early warning. Jody Harpstead knew. Shireen Gandhi likely knew. No action except retaliations. Concerned BHD employees. December 2nd, 2022, 3:33. Judy Randall, OLA, corruption of contracting processes. Dear Judy, we want to bring to your attention some abnormalities in BHD contracting process. As public employees, we are reporting possible misuse of public money and non-compliance with state laws in the contract management processes in BHD or DHS. As one example of this corruption of process, contract ID 219494 was Zion Baptist Church. This contract was instated by Paul Flessner, a work out of class director whose salary was paid using DHS funds at a considerably higher rate than what your salary ranges are. Paul was brought on to by Commissioner Harpstead from Olmsted County because he was friends with Deputy Commissioner Chuck Johnson. Paul's performance at DHS was cited for being seriously deficient. In fact, could otherwise be described as being disastrous. This specific contract was put into place to address trauma experienced by Black communities in North Minneapolis. However, no RFP was ever issued, and the contract given to Zion Baptist Church with no cited work plan, justification for sole source, or any other performance metric to justify the spending X amount of $1 million of public dollars was given to this vendor with no oversight of any kind. Now, Eric Grumhold wants to add another $1 million to provide to this vendor with a similar lack of documentation, justification, or oversight. In fact, DHS recently discovered no justification for sole source form was ever documented or approved by contracting and legal compliance. Now DHS is trying to backdate the justification for sole source, which is technically illegal. The grant manager and their supervisor, Amanda X, were never held accountable for this misconduct. In fact, Amanda was recently promoted for a position she is not qualified for. We want you to investigate who benefited from this contract 219494 as violent prevention activities in North Minneapolis. It's something that many other qualified vendors would have been interested in if DHS would have acted legally and issued an RFP. We are worried that the majority of funds went to the executives of this organization rather than serving the community and people. This vendor is required to coordinate a consortium of multiple small organizations to provide violence prevention services. However, none of these organizations have been verified by DHS. In fact, some of these do not have a valid physical or web address. Please let us know if you require any addition. We will be sending you more information on specific contracts in the coming weeks that details issues with financial reconciliation, funding abnormalities, and compliance issues. So it's been out there, and that's kind of crazy because none of those peoples were being have been questioned, have been interviewed. None of that. That's wild. That is wild.
Because their senator got up there and said there was no fraud, and he needs there not to be fraud.
Right.
Like that Promise Act that Uko had talked about. Which one? Are you talking about the original one that was for North Minneapolis, or the one that they ended up switching to be for the area foundations as well? Because I mean, they switched it up a little bit. You know what I mean? And if you go look at the presentations from, if you just look up the legislative stuff for the Promise Act, they'll give you the presentations that they did and who all it was targeted to. So let you know who exactly got the money. But look who did the outreach. You can go right there on their website. And so Salem Inc. couldn't get the stuff because through Bobby Joe Champion's direct appropriations. So they just got it through doing the outreach Promise Act. So they went over to deed from the other one that he was getting. So that's all. And then it flows through the community action partnerships and stuff like that through the area foundations and that too to get to these people. Even if they're denied because of an ethics investigation, they'll still get their money somehow.
Right. No, they will. They'll figure it out. And that's what like that frustrates me about a whole lot of this stuff is like a lot of it was and it can be prevented. And it seems to me like leaders or people at DHS weren't even that wasn't part of their job description because you can even look at it now. The same people that allowed Feeding Our Future in DHS is now over at the Office of Cannabis Management. So how can we not expect their problems to be in that cannabis management program if they left and there was already previous problems because of Feeding Our Future and so many other scams? So
if you listen to what the DFL actually says, they want to destroy capitalism. They want to institute whatever democracy. So, but they also want socialism, and they want to remake the Minnesota into their vision of what America should be. And part of that is, Piven was up here training them through the Wellstone Institute. Look at the Cloward Piven model. Part of that is overwhelming the social services to the point where it collapses society, where then you can institute government control of everything. Well, look at what they're doing. It seems like that's what they're doing. That's what they claim to be doing. And so trusting them to want to do positive things when they claim to want to do negative things, I don't think is a wise idea. If somebody says they're going to beat me up, I'm going to take their word at it, man.
no, I am too. He always asking for donations. Crazy. Stop going out there with only one or two people. Fuck you mean when
Because me personally, I want to see Northside succeed, yeah, but I don't want to see it to be exclusive. You know what I mean? I want to see rural Minnesota succeed as well. You know what I mean? Not exclusively, but as well. You know what I mean? I think there's a way to do it better for everybody, but we also need to look at demographics. We're not having enough kids. There's a lot of old people. How are we going to deal with that? The tax base is shrinking. How are we going to deal with that? Are we going to continue to overtax businesses where they're fleeing? You know, I think United Health Group's moving 2,000 people, and then you have other groups doing the same type of thing. What are we doing? And I don't like United Health Group. I think they're a big racket, but you know what I mean? We have to look at what we're doing with the tax base too.
Right. Oh, that's true. And I don't think that's the whole problem is like we have a disconnect between our lawmakers and certain communities because those people are being ignored. And I'll say this again is because they have gatekeepers. And whatever those gatekeepers, they make sure that whatever the city or the state wants them to do, that's what they do. Doesn't matter if it came down to Mayor Frey and his strong mayor, or even some of these referendums. I can guarantee you that a lot of people are paid to sway your decision. If you can see that with the SPLC, they paid supposedly. I shouldn't even say that, but supposedly that they was giving money to all types of organizations, and I already knew that didn't matter because that happens in Minnesota. We pay people for anti-guns and who are pro-guns. We comes from the same place.
Supply and demand.
Right. And that's how I feel like we don't ever get nowhere. I feel like that's where the disconnect is because you have so many people that think a different way, but then be ignored because they think that way.
I have to go back and find the clip where Walter Hudson was talking about basically only listening to the lobbyists that are up there. And that was really interesting when he said that about listening to the lobbyists, because those lobbyists are the same ones that put out the PACs, that put out the ads, that put out the, you know what I mean? So if we're only listening to the lobbyists, what does that mean? That we all need to get lobbyists or what? I mean, obviously the DFL people are up there lobbying a heck of a lot more. Are you listening to them, or what? Who are you listening to, really?
I think the only people that they listen to are the people who are lobbyists or so-called CEOs. Because I've watched Nathan this year, and I get kind of excited when I see him in the crowd, because you can kind of pick him out. He's usually the only black person there, but it's I don't think he goes up there to be heard, but they don't hear him. They're listening, but they're not hearing. Because at the end of the day, he's just again, I must say this, a person in a system that's broken. And instead of trying to fix that broken system, they would rather put all the blame and act like it's his fault instead of actually just fixing it.
Pull up his video from last night if you would. So they're actually retaliating against him, trying to claim that he's suicidal and all this other stuff. But they called the cops on him when he went with me up to Phil's thing, trying to say I abducted him. When I got their permission, and they tried to hand me his meds in a baggie that was unlabeled, and I wasn't going to take meds in a baggie that's unlabeled. You know what I mean? So, like, yeah, they're a really interesting group.
Which video? Let's see. He put this one up 18 hours ago.
Yeah, that one, I think.
Termination of notice from Living Hope.
Oh,
I got one. 60 days. I'm reading it. It's lies. It's lies. There's nothing positive in here. There's nothing. They want to lie so bad because my voice has made it to the national level. They want to lie so bad because it's good for them. But guess what? They're going to believe me over the fraud that Living Hope has committed. So Living Hope, thank you for your termination notice. Because this fight, I just have won. And I'm so glad that I'm a disability advocate for the state of Minnesota. And I'm glad for the real team that is on my side. Not the fake people that want to lie and say they care about me. The fight has just began, and I've won. I have won. My voice means a lot. But now, it's time for me to move out of state. But hold it, people. Don't shed your tears yet. I will still be a disability advocate for the state of Minnesota, but now I'm going to add the United States in. I love Minnesota. I've been here for almost 26 years of my life, and I think I need a change out of the state. So thank you to my team. Thank you for the people that support me. Because guess what? This is not shed tears, you guys. It's a win, because my voice made the difference. God bless.
And we've actually been able to map out. There's a whole bunch of different companies that are registered to the addresses of Living Hope, and they have a lot of complaints against them in DHS's website as well. And they don't seem to know how to do their job. But one of their other businesses that's listed at one of their addresses, Caring with Friends, whatever LLC, they tried to do they do foster care and respite care. They tried to do a group home, but got denied because it said in there that even after multiple attempts with the county trying to assist them with their paperwork, they could not comply with the requirements or understand the requirements of legally having a business like that.
That's
so
the part about all of this, man.
Like, if DHS is saying that, I'm going to take them at their word, right? I'm not going to try to argue with DHS. If DHS says that they pushed a client down that was in his schizophrenic episode, then I'm going to say they pushed a client down that was in a schizophrenic episode. I mean, like, their business is crazy, and they know that they're caught, and we're sending it up to CMS and everybody we can.
I hope Nate gets to sees with the right kind of people, man, because some people don't understand of, like, when you start speaking out, that kind of backlash that you get from people who you thought were on the same side as you, or who you thought were friends, and turn out it wasn't really it was more about the love of money than it was about anything else. And it's like, I don't get it. I just don't get it. And it's like, why are people so okay with that shit? It's like silence, to me, silence is complicity. You know what I'm saying? It's like, we gotta, because people shouldn't feel alone when they're not. You know what I'm saying? Even though that situation is going on, they shouldn't still be feeling like they're alone, because they're not. I've never feel alone. You know, even though there may be times I do, but I know that I'm not alone.
Well, you know me, man. I've been trying to fight for people's rights in the Constitution, and the Constitution sort of matters to me. And I'll fight for some people that are in prison too, that are unconstitutionally in prison. You know, but at the same time, I'm gonna play those same standards to like the Chauvin case or to whatever else. You know, because like in James's case, it's the same prosecutors that lied about physical evidence and got up there and just lied their ass off on the stand. You know what I mean? And got others to do the same. That's not okay, you know. And like in Nate's situation, no, he has rights, man, and you can't retaliate against clients for speaking out. You know what I mean? Like, no, we don't do that here in America. I don't care. And I don't care who I have to piss off. Guess what? It's gonna go somewhere. You know?
Right. And usually along the way, somebody gets pissed because you're stopping. That's why what trips me out, right, is that everybody talking about they're so scared of gangbangers. I'll tell you who the biggest gangbangers in the world. It ain't the police. It ain't the niggas on the streets. That's these lawmakers. You literally have people that are worth millions that are supposed to make certain lives better who are struggling. Make that fucking make sense. How you have high priced CEOs, executives, nonprofit leaders that make hand over fist amount of money, but yet the people they serve live in a Cheeto bag or Dorito bag.
Remember, the nonprofit industry in Minnesota is worth something like 20 something billion or more. You know what I mean? Like, it's a big industry here in Minnesota, and a lot of that comes from the state and stuff like that, and these special interest groups. And if you link it back again, it's like the Rockefellers, Dayton's X, and stuff like that, man. Like, if you really want rich billionaires telling you what to think, okay, like, I agree with the DSA on certain things, and we'll talk about it, especially with transparency there in Minneapolis or a couple other things, you know. Like, I'll give them props where they deserve it. But no, I don't want communism, and we can discuss the real issues and come up with real solutions without saying that, you know, we can agree that our government's corrupt. Yeah, it's corrupt all around, but doesn't mean communism's the answer.
Right. Because it's sometimes neither might be the right answer, but there's somewhere in the middle that probably is. And I think people are, I don't know, I'll just say this, that I think we've gotten so far one way that compromising or even trying to agree on certain issues that aren't even fixed are not helping. Let's fix the issues that are broken, that we've already fucked up, and let's fix them. And then we can go on and get with the trans or get with the gays. But our education, our judicial, all that is fucked up. So how can we expect anything else to not be fucked up? Because everything else already is. So
Just because people don't think that you deserve access to kids doesn't mean they hate you or whatever else. You know what I mean? Like, a lot of people ain't got no problem with adults doing whatever they want as long as they're not bringing it around the kids and whatever else. You know what I mean? So just because we don't want the issues in school and force down kids' throat doesn't mean we want you all to die or anything like that. We just don't agree with the crap. But adults can do whatever they want with their own bodies. Don't force it down kids' throats.
Just like they do the same thing. My body, my choice. Shouldn't it be our choice as well? Anything you want to say, Robert?
Well, kids can't consent, and like the Jordan sex abuse case from the 80s literally went through like how they need to have certain considerations when interviewing minors because they can't put thoughts in their heads and lead them on and whatever else because they were doing that in interviews. It's the same thing with education, right? You can't lead them down certain paths because they're manipulatable. You can manipulate their minds. It's in law, you know what I mean? So that's it, man. Just God bless everybody, man, and hopefully we can overcome and save Minnesota and make it make sense again. You know what I mean? Because like we need to stop the fraud and money laundering and then figure it out from there. But a lot of these systems need to be dismantled and rebuilt because they're set up to do fraud. And if they're set up to do fraud, they're going to do the thing they were set up to do.
Right. No, that is very, very true. That is very true. Well, I'm going to get up out of here. I won't be back Monday. I have some things to do in the morning, but I will be back Tuesday. And be back here talking about the problems that we have in Minnesota and not just pointing them out, but how do we get to solutions and not just one-sided solutions, but we the people solutions, not Democratic, not Republican, but solutions that are for the people. So here you are with Don Tripp, 6 a.m. on a school night. And I'll see y'all next week, same time, same place. Howdy.
Hey, Stevie.
What it is, Stevie? People sound it, people sound it. If you think I do this shit just to do this shit, it's giving ignorance. Don't add me by no top 3, cause I don't give a shit. Truth is, I wouldn't be in the booth if I ain't benefit. I really think being poor robbed me of my innocence. Getting to these duckets, I can't kick it till I kick the bucket. All I hear is bills, 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 like LaToya Luckett. Rent due, then rent due again, you give it 30 days. Mama pray for better days, I pray it don't ever rain. Cause we ain't got a dime put aside for a hurricane. When niggas start to drown, they start telling names. Damn. Anything to stay afloat. Niggas will sell you up the river just to make it down the road. And gold diggers love it when your heart